job so much? Well, for one thing, every day is different. We never know what we're going to see out here. And hang on. Speaking of which, I just caught a glimpse of a warthog, but it's run away. It seems to be running off into the thicket line. Yeah, it's gone, unfortunately. Just caught a glimpse of a warthog. So, yeah, I think because every day is so different, and you never know what you're going to see or what you're going to experience. And one of the other things I really love about my job is interaction with people and being able to take people on safari, show them around, and hopefully teach them a little bit about nature and about Africa. That's definitely why I love doing what I do. I really do enjoy it. Oh, Louisa has asked an interesting question. Louisa would like to know, what is the most unusual animal behavior I've ever witnessed? Louisa, I'm trying to think. Just off the top of my head, one that pops into mind now is, we were speaking about leopard earlier, and I was very fortunate. I've worked in the Sabi Sands, well, at a lodge called Londolozi. I worked there for about 5 years, almost 6 years. And the leopard viewing within this entire area is very, very good. And down there we were fortunate, we saw, I got to track and find and follow and see interaction between many, many different leopards. And one of the most interesting sightings that I can remember is we had a male and female leopard that were mating, so they were moving around together. And then what happened was the male was challenging another male for territory, another dominant male. So there were 3 of them together. And what happened was these 2 males began to fight, but very aggressive fighting. The female then just hung around on the outskirts and began to watch, and just keeping a distance so that she wasn't in harm's way. And then out of nowhere, another male who was also, it was just on the edge of his territory too, another male came into the area, and he sat back and watched. He didn't get involved though, but he also just watched the interaction between the 2 males that were fighting. So 4 big adult leopard all together in the same area. It was fascinating to see. I've never seen that again. It was very interesting, and that's probably one of the more interesting sightings I've had. Trying to think what else. I was very fortunate, speaking about honey badger, 1 year. There's a giraffe. Hang on. Let's see if we can see. Can you get it through there? Let me see, a little bit forward maybe. It's a bit tricky, maybe through there. Slightly positioning the vehicle. There we go. Eggs has got it there. Look at that. Just the beautiful giraffe. Big male, big old male. Look at that skull, the head. You can see the calcification around his head. That's a very, very old male. Bertus, good afternoon to you. Bertus is a new viewer, so welcome on Safari Live. Bertus would like to know, how long do giraffes sleep in a day, and do they sleep standing up? So Bertus, giraffe and most animals, they do rest. They don't necessarily sleep like we sleep. If the giraffe do end up sleeping properly, it will be for very short periods of time, because they cannot afford to drop their guard. All these animals have to constantly be aware of what's around them. So they'll rest, and they will lie down to rest, but the giraffe always keep their heads held up high, always keep their necks up, and they lie on their stomachs, and they'll rest that way, and then later on they'll get up and start moving again. This could be for anywhere between 1 and 4 hours a day. So not a lot, but they don't necessarily sleep like we sleep. None of these animals do. You can imagine Impala always have to be awake and aware of what's going around them. They do rest, however, so they will lie down, but they'll still be aware and alert. even those lions, we saw them sleeping earlier, but they are still completely aware of what's going on around them. I mentioned how I'd been watching a pride of lions on a number of occasions, sleeping or resting next to in a thicket, and an impala or different antelope came wandering through, and within seconds these lions were up and they managed to kill the impala. So it just shows you that even though they look asleep, they're still completely aware of what's going on around them. Don't forget, everybody, this is a live safari, so what we are seeing, you are seeing immediately back home. There's no editing or anything. And don't forget, you can send your questions and comments through to us, either via Twitter, #SafariLive, or email questions at WildEarth.TV. And we'll gladly answer your questions, or we'll try our best to answer them. Scanning the trees carefully for any sign of a leopard. It's a beautiful afternoon. As I said, there's still quite a lot of cloud cover. Well, it's faded a little bit, but still in the west. And I think we're going to have a beautiful sunset. Look at that. That is lovely. So I'm sure we're going to have a great sunset. Oh, some buffalo just off to the left. There we go. Oh. These look like some old bulls, a bachelor herd. That's quite a big male, that. Look at the boss, all that horn structure. It's known as the boss. Very, very thick. So these animals are ones that I must admit I least enjoy walking into them when we are on foot and around, because they can be quite unpredictable, these old buffalo bulls, and they have the reputation of being quite aggressive, but I think again it's purely because they feel threatened, and the only way they know how to defend themselves is to potentially see off the threat or the danger. They do that with lions. I mean, I've seen a number of times of lions trying to hunt buffalo, and the buffalo turn around and end up chasing the lions off, especially these big males. That's interesting. Buffalo are meant to be grazers, which means they eat grass. But because of the drought and the dry conditions, these buffalo are browsing. See, they're eating leaves off the trees. Or they're basically mixing between the two, grass, whatever grass they can find, and some of the leaves. So it just shows you how the drought has affected these animals, and the behavior has changed slightly because of it. It also shows how animals have the ability to adapt. You can see that every little bit of grass the buffalo can get. Oh, not much around. You can see there very small little tufts. Very peaceful here at the moment. Just hear the buffalo moving, some of them moving through the trees, breaking some little sticks and twigs while they're walking. It's often good just to stop and listen like this at times, because you can also be alerted to predators in the area or nearby from alarm calls from different animals. A lot of animals have got different alarm calls for when they see any predators. Monkeys and baboons are great because they give off very loud alarm calls, and you've got a pretty good chance of finding a predator if you're able to see where those monkeys and baboons are looking, because their eyesight is so very, very good. And the amount of times I've found predators because of their alarm calls, I can't even tell you. And then also different antelope species have alarm calls, and they will alert each other. The reason they do that is for safety, to alert each other, let each other know that there is danger around, they need to be aware, and that they can move out of the area where the predator is. So it's not a bad thing to often stop and just listen in the bush. And here, if you can't hear some of those alarm calls or any sign that there might be something around. I'm going to continue our search for anything else. And Taylor's got a bird in a nest.
Look at this, you're just catching the male of the magpie shrike feeding Mrs. Magpie Shrike on the right. So he's been working hard for the past couple of days, and he's going to continue. So he's gone now in search of something else to eat. Let's see if there's any chicks inside here. Oh, look at that, look at this. They look like they're 2 little chicks. Well done, Mr. and Mrs. Magpie Shrike. Your babies have hatched. That is amazing. I just said to Brian, I was like, I wonder if there are any chicks. We both thought it looked like she was sitting a little bit higher up than what she normally is. Oh my goodness. That was incredible. The first glimpse of Mr. and Mrs. Magpie Shrike's little chicks. I only saw 2 from what I could see. Brian, did you see any more? Only, it looks like it could only be 2. Maybe there's still another egg or so. I don't know if you spotted that they didn't have any feathers on them, and it looks like their eyes were still closed. So I reckon that they're probably only a few days old, maybe a day or 2. We were here 2 mornings ago, and she definitely didn't have any chicks because we watched Mr. Magpie Shrike come through, and he fed the female and she ate it. She didn't pass it on. That was amazing. Now Mr. Magpie Shrike is going to have to work very, very hard just until these little ones develop some feathers and they're able to be left in the nest unattended. And then Mom will go off and start helping to feed the chicks too. It's obviously very difficult for one to do all the work. That was absolutely beautiful. I'm so happy that we managed to see that. Wasn't that spectacular? Now something else that is spectacular that I want to show you, I'm going to try and roll back very quickly, is look at what is developing. Can you see that? I now don't think we're going to really get a sunset at all this evening. Sorry, I'm just trying to get into gear there. We don't roll away. But that cloud is creeping over. Isn't that beautiful? Lovely light coming off the tops of the clouds. All those crepuscular rays. Absolutely stunning. Now let's hope we're going to see some lightning building up before we have to end the show a little bit later. Won't that be exciting to actually watch the development of a storm come in from start to finish? That would be really exciting. I really cannot believe we got to see those magpie shrike chicks. Now let's quickly try and get another look at the magpie shrikes, just in case that male comes back. I'm now quite keen to spend a little bit of time. Is that alright, Brian? A little bit further forward. Here we go. There's a tiny little gap here. Would you like me to try and go a little bit further? Oh no, there we go. That's alright. Here we go. He's back again. You're working very hard. Now that's not as big of a, there we go. Hopefully this mother is now feeding those chicks turn by turn. Look at them, proud parents that they were able to hatch 2 of those chicks. Now Debbie from Vancouver, you're wondering if cuckoos ever use the magpie shrikes as sort of hosts? I haven't heard of it, and I'm very quickly just double checking. As far as I'm aware, they aren't sort of parasitized by any of the cuckoos. Now, I'm just double checking that I was correct, and if I was indeed. So lucky for them, they're actually going to have 2 little magpie shrikes and not any imposters. Now, there's various techniques that the cuckoos will do, though, to take over a nest, which it'll be host dependent. So some of those techniques are, they will sort of, oh, there we go, something else. He's doing a sterling job. What is he catching? It looks like little termites or something. Is it a little termite or ant of some sort? Trying to have a look. It's quite difficult to make out what was in the beak of the mother. Yeah, the little ones look like they're full. Nobody's stuck there. Here we go. 3. There's 3 chicks. Oh, wow. That was number 3. So sorry, Debbie, I keep getting distracted, but this is just absolutely so beautiful to witness the parental care of the magpie shrikes. So I was saying that some of the different techniques, it will depend on the host and then, of course, the species of the cuckoo. Sometimes the cuckoos will lay their eggs in the nest and kick the other eggs out themselves, or the chicks will hatch and they will push the other eggs out of the nest themselves. They're often born with concave backs, which allows them to sort of scoop the egg up onto their underdeveloped wings, and then that concave back, of course, helps, and then they're able to shove it out of the nest. Otherwise, they also practice siblicide, where they will unfortunately kill off the actual host's chicks. I think it's just pretty amazing, though, that even though they don't look the same, the cuckoo and the host don't look the same as they start to get older, that mother has just got a serious sort of maternal need to raise that chick, and she doesn't care. It was in her nest, it must be hers, and she's going to look after it regardless of its abnormal looks compared to the other magpie shrikes. Now, what we might see, and I'm so happy that we've stumbled across this magpie shrike nest so we can watch the story grow now. Now, most likely the chicks from Mr. and Mrs. Magpie Shrike's previous egg-laying conundrum from last year, once they would have hatched, and I'm sure they'll be in the area. Often the previous sort of brood will help feed the new brood that comes through. So these 2 little chicks these 3 little chicks, we saw that there were 3 now, will definitely have some helping hands when they fledge the nest. And that's typically why we see them in sort of big groups. It's not necessarily that they are cooperative breeders in the sense that the others don't breed, but it's normally the juveniles that are helping raise the new chicks. Look at that. They're getting lots of food before you know it. These little chicks are going to be big and strong. There you go, Mom having a little bit for herself, and she rightfully deserves that. And they need to feed all the time. Those little things are going to be hungry, and they won't say no to food. They need to eat as much as they can. Now, Andrine, I'm not entirely sure how to answer this question. You want to know what on earth are they feeding the chicks? I'm not sure. I tried to have a little look. To me, they almost look like termites, perhaps maybe harvester termites, maybe even the large fungus-growing termites. We'll try and have a look again, seeing as this male is doing such a good job at bringing back all the food. But maybe even some grasshoppers. Grasshoppers are quite easy to sort of see them with their legs, and they're very typical grasshopper shape. But to me, they look like termites. But he looks like he's going to come back again. I can see him just up on the dead tree behind us, scouring around. So perhaps he's coming back in again to drop off something else, and then maybe this time we'll have an opportunity to have a closer look. What do you think that these chicks are being fed? Maybe you had a better look than I did, or were able to pause the screen, maybe take a screenshot of it, and then we can zoom in and have a look. And if I'm wrong, please let me know. Maybe it was something completely different. It could have been a cockroach or anything along those lines. They mainly eat insects, but occasionally they'll eat fruit too, but it's not a common part of their diet. Here he comes. He's back in again. He's just further down below her. You can see his tail flapping in the wind. Well, the wind's really picking up. They're both chatting to each other. Here's another tiny little insect that you saw. I didn't see what that was. That was quite small. That could have been an ant. Like I said, they'll virtually catch any insect that they can. A butterfly, a moth, a caterpillar, a worm, a maggot, anything along those lines, and those little ones will happily devour whatever they are given. But that was, I'm just completely blown away. Wasn't that fantastic? But I think we're going to leave Mr. and Mrs. Magpie Shrike now to carry on with their babysitting duties, and it's quite a difficult one. I think that they are fantastic for being able to care for so many chicks, and that male is doing a sterling job in making sure that his lovely wife and his children are well fed. We're going to carry on and see what else we can find. And let's go back across to Byron. And of course, Eggsy, who's also out on drive.
So I haven't found anything yet, but how amazing was that sighting with that magpie shrikes? That is so great. We haven't had too much luck, or more luck. I mean, a good look around, but that's how it goes sometimes, you know, and that's one of the joys of being out here, is you never know what you're going to see, and it's not always a guarantee. You need to remember that it takes a lot of time and effort finding these animals, and that also just allows us to appreciate the sightings so much more when we do see them. But let's see what we can find. You never know. As I always say, it's too soon to panic. You know, no, Taylor said she doesn't think we're going to get much of a sunset, and I think you might be right, because the sun is dipped behind the clouds, although I'm still hoping. Maybe we get a few rays shooting through. Just on the ground over there, Eggsy, just over here. I just want to get out quickly and show you this. It's quite interesting. Oh, look at this. So I wasn't, I mean, we drove here yesterday, and this definitely wasn't here. This looks like it's been created by termites, and it's very active. I can see tiny termites at the moment all around here, and that's because of the rain. So the termites are becoming more and more active now because of the moisture in the sky or in the air, and obviously all the moisture that's hit the ground. So this is brand new. This was built literally probably from this morning during the course of the day. These termites have managed to bring all that soil out and build this little funnel right over here for this little entrance to a potential termite mound, but I don't think this is going to get very, very big, but at least we know there is a termite colony under here. I'm trying to see, it's completely hollow. I don't want to touch it. It's still very, very soft and brittle because it is still new, so I'm not going to touch it because I don't want to break it, but I can see a few little tiny termites wandering around here. Oh, that's great. So that's interesting. It's amazing how quickly they're able to build these little funnels and get that soil out of the ground. I know Taylor spoke about some termites earlier, and alates. Those are the winged termites, the ones that start the colonies usually when they do move, or when they do leave the colony that they were in. They will go off and start another colony, and they're the winged termites. Let's make sure I miss that. There we go. It's really great if you're able to find some of the larger active termite mounds. You get bigger termites. There's also a number of different species of termites too. There's not just one species. Oh, here we go. There's a nice active termite mound. This is great. It looks like some soldiers out there. Let me just reposition. Make sure you can have a look at this. This is great. I'll see if I can get some for you. There we go. All right. Awesome. Let me jump out here quickly. Oh, this is fantastic. This is a very, very active termite mound. And I'm going to see if I can just get one termite for you. I don't want to disturb them too much, but just for you to have a look. One of the soldiers. Thing is, they've got very, very big pincers and they can bite. So I don't want to pick one up and it ends up biting me viciously. Let's just have a look here. They're all hiding. I don't know how closely you can zoom. Just all right. Well, Eggsy says pretty close. Let's see. Come on. Again, this is all new. This whole section over here of this termite mound is all new. So this is active. And all these little soldiers are out protecting the termite mound. So from any potential predators that come through that might want to feed on them or on the termites or on the colony, these soldiers are out with their pincers. They also secrete a formic acid of sorts, which will irritate whatever is trying to feed on them. And they will come out and they will bite whatever it is. Let's see, they seem to be hiding now. They're just right in the back. There aren't any that have come out, but they are around here. These beautiful red little termites. Let's see. Like I said, I don't want to disturb the termites too much or cause them any harm. It's very difficult. I won't be able to get one out there for you now. But they are all there. But that's a nice active termite mound with the big soldiers at the entrances to all these little tunnels and these chimneys that run through the entire termite mound. And that's obviously to regulate the temperature. And with all the moisture around at the moment, they're probably allowing air to flow through, and they're able to build and extend their termite mound because there is moisture. So that is really, really great. I'll just plug in again. There you go. I'm not sure if you got to see one or two of them. Not really. It's a bit difficult. They're not very big. They're only about this size. So the soldiers, that's quite big for a termite though. About that size with these big pincers. I was hoping to try and show you one on my hand, but like I said, I don't want to disturb the mound too much, irritate them. If one was out and walking about, I could have maybe picked him up quickly, but they were all right inside. Lucian has asked, can the termites eat? I'm sorry. Can people eat the termites? Yes, Lucian. People can eat termites, and a lot of people do, especially locals that maybe grew up in this area. Tribes when they were younger. People who lived in the bush, they will definitely eat termites. Very rich in protein, so it's a great food source. And Taylor seems to be enjoying the sunset. She says she's got a beautiful sky. Let's have a look.
This was just too beautiful to pass up, and I'm wondering if we're going to get the sun coming through that little gap in the clouds, or if it's just a little bit further west and maybe we're going to miss it. But I just thought that this was such a beautiful shot. There's so many different types of clouds here. Cirrus clouds, cumulonimbus, a couple of course I've already said it. Sorry, I lost my thought on where I was going with the clouds, but nevertheless there's lots of them here. And now it looks like it's clearing up a little bit. The sky is playing games with us this evening. But isn't that so beautiful? The different colors, the yellows, the oranges, the blues. It's stunning. Hello, Timothy Howard. You want to know what is the weather like over here? Now, currently, we're in October, as you know, because that's I think, the same all over the world. I don't know why I had to remind myself about that. But yes, we are in spring at the moment indeed. We're coming to the end of spring though, and sort of November will be the last month of spring, and then we hit December and we're into the hot summer. Though some of these days it feels as though summer has indeed arrived already. I'm just looking into the distance. We've got a vehicle coming up, so we're going to have to turn around very quickly. And we're still trying to get to Buffelshoek Dam, but we're not far now. We're sort of almost on schedule. So I'm just going to quickly reverse over here, turn around, and then we're going to carry on to Buffelshoek Dam. Yeah. Right, let's carry on. Now, I don't know what we're going to find at Buffelshoek Dam. I just thought it would be nice to show Brian how full it is. Like I said, it's the fullest that I've seen it since I've been here. I thought it was quite spectacular. I think it looked like a lake this morning, especially with those Egyptian geese that were quite happily wading away and having a great morning breakfast. I wonder if they're still around. I'm sure that they're a permanent pair in that area. We're just going to go through a little dip and then we will soon be at Buffelshoek. Now, in a lot of the watering holes, I'm going to show you something in this little pan. I sometimes get quite excited and a little bit confused, but have a look over here. I'm going to go further forward. Look at that big thing sitting in the watering hole. Don't get too excited, it's not a crocodile, but sometimes these fallen logs do look like crocodiles, and I know that Shani was wondering if we do see any crocodiles or alligators. Let me quickly pull off the road. I've just got a vehicle behind me, and then we will carry on chatting. We do that. And now they're able to pass by us in peace and carry on with their day. We know that I'm not the fastest of the drivers. I seem to crawl along sometimes. Now, Shani, I haven't seen any sign of a crocodile, not even a footprint or anything since I've been up here. Now, it is possible, of course. It's obviously a little bit more common where you have larger river systems. So when I was down in the southern sand, we had the Sabi River. There were crocodiles in there all the time. And when we would get lots and lots of rain in the smaller rivers like the Msutlu and the Tsobatlatla and all those strange named rivers, when they would fill up and flow, then we'd quite often see quite a bit of crocodile activity. There even used to be one crocodile that would bask in the sun, especially, like I said, after rain, and quite close to my room. You'd walk outside thinking and hadn't seen any crocodiles for months and months, and the next minute you hear the scurrying of the leaves and off down, and obviously a big splash that would go with that, and then this big crocodile that we completely miss would be sitting sort of basking in the sun and would dive down straight into the water. But we always err on the side of caution. We always have a look. Now, especially if you are walking around, never mind just the hippos, those crocodiles that can sit on the bottom of the water and look completely invisible. Well, you wouldn't want to be surprised by one of them. So you'll see if any of us do approach a watering hole, we'll be like the zebras. We'll stop and we'll have a look for a little bit and watch, make sure we don't see any bubbles that are sort of bigger bubbles than what a catfish or anything could produce. And of course then you go up and you have a look, but you keep an eye out. Now, crocodiles are actually scary things, and they're highly intelligent, and one of the reasons why I think that they're pretty scary, and we saw this in Zambia, is that they are creatures of habit and they like to sit and watch their prey. So if you go and you use the same fishing spot off the side of a bank, a specific bank, on a regular basis, those crocodiles will figure that out, and eventually they'll start lurking around and going to those areas. And that's why you've got to be so careful when you were being on the sort of the dangerous side of fishing, not in a boat or anything like that. And you would have to make sure that you change your spot up regularly. That was the first advice that the locals gave me when I was up there for a very short stint, was be careful of the crocodiles and don't fish in the same spot. Obviously all the fishing that we did there though was all catch and release, but it was such a beautiful place. Now we're coming around the corner towards Buffelshoek Dam. We're not too far, just about a minute or two away. What is that? I'm just checking what is up in the trees. Probably nothing. No. Now I'm going to try and repeat the question that Rebecca just whispered into my ear amongst all the giggles. See, it's not just the presenters that get tongue-tied every now and then, but the directors in final control, sometimes the tongue just loves to stick onto the palate and it's almost impossible to make out what they're saying, which provides a lot of entertainment. But Roger, you're wondering if there are any animals in this area that have gone extinct. I'm sure there are. Nothing massive. We're very fortunate. There are obviously lots of rhinos in this greater Kruger area, Richard, sorry. And I haven't seen anything. Maybe a couple of insects that I'm not aware of that definitely could have gone extinct. But just off of the top of my head, I can't think of anything. We've still got rhinos, we've got elephants, we've got the rest of the big five. We see some of the smaller things too. So it's maybe not that there are any that are extinct, but there's quite a few species that are quite shy. Numbers are sort of low that we need to look after. Now we've arrived at Buffelshoek Dam. Sorry, we're not, I think it should be called Lake Buffelshoek now, because that's what it sort of resembles. But I'm trying to think. Byron says, of course, the quagga, but I don't know if it even occurred up in this area. I'm just trying to think. I wasn't around to see the quagga, of course. So I suppose then you could also say things like dinosaurs and all those types of things. But like I said, I wasn't around. I'm not even sure when the quagga went extinct, but it was a few years ago. And they would have been quite spectacular. If you're wondering what a quagga is, it looks like a combination between a donkey and a horse, something along those lines, if you can get your imagination going. Now you can see even the water has subsided already since this morning. There's not as much of it that was around, but I suppose from all the animals coming to drink from it and bathe in it, and as well as it evaporating in this heat, it is going to drop very, very quickly. Are you impressed, Brian?
I am.
That's beautiful, isn't it?
Yes.
It's lovely. But nothing here, except I did very briefly see a blacksmith lapwing, but they are always regulars sort of around the watering holes. Right. Now what are we going to go and look for? We're just taking a lovely afternoon bumble, and it hasn't been a bad one. We're having so much luck already. Now we just need that leopard. I'm hanging around trying to listen on the radio to see if I can perhaps hear anything about a leopard. Of course I'm looking for footprints, but I haven't seen anything just yet. But we will persevere and continue, and while we persevere and continue, let's go back to Byron.
I think Taylor and I have got the same idea this afternoon. We're also taking a wonderful afternoon bumble, as they call it. Just wandering through the bush and trying to see if anything pops up or presents itself for us. More activity from some of the nocturnal little animals. You never know. Aardvark, pangolin, those types of animals which do occur in this area. They are quite rare and generally very nocturnal You don't often see them at all, especially in these areas, but they do occur here. And maybe because of this rain and all the activity of food, all those little things they feed on, like those termites, you might get some activity and might end up finding some of them. You never know. Stranger things have happened in the bush. Wouldn't it be amazing to see a pangolin or an aardvark? So, just got a question from Dubs Racing, and they would like to know, are dung beetles endangered? No, not at all. We've got a very healthy dung beetle population, but there are many different species of dung beetles. I'm not exactly sure of the number, but there are many different species, and these dung beetles are categorized into 3 different categories. Did you see something? Thought Eggsy saw something. Dung beetles basically fall into 3 different categories. So you have got the rollers, some of the larger dung beetles that roll the ball of dung and roll it away, and they form those perfect little round balls. You also have got dwellers, which just live in the dung pile itself. They'll live there and feed on the dung. And then burrowers, which end up burrowing directly down underneath the ground from that dung pile and taking dung down there, and they'll feed on it and lay eggs in the dung. So the dung beetles play a very, very crucial role in the environment. So we just got a question from Kelly Ellie, I think, if I'm saying that correctly. And they would like to know, what is it that the dung beetles actually do with the dung? So Kelly Ellie, the dung beetles, what they do, and there's a nice bit of dung in front of us. Just quickly jump out and explain it over there at the pile of dung, because it is very interesting, and they do play a very, very crucial role. So this is some old elephant dung, and I wonder if I can't find a dung beetle in here somewhere. This is basically just dry grass and plant material, so it's not actually very dirty, and I don't see any dung beetles here at the moment. But what they do is the dung beetles, basically what happens is the dung beetles feed on the dung. That is what they eat, and they'll roll the dung and carry it away. Some of the bigger rolling dung beetles, the ones that roll the dung away, they'll bury it, feed on the dung, but the most important thing is they actually lay their eggs in the dung. And the reason for that is, as the eggs hatch, the larvae have something to feed on. They'll feed on the dung. So they basically get rid of all the dung that is around here, all the elephant, rhino, buffalo dung, many different antelope dung. So they play a crucial role. You can imagine if we didn't have dung beetles, this place would be littered with dung. So they really, really are important parts of our ecosystem that we have out here. I'm surprised we don't see any in there at the moment. So Kelly Ellie, I hope that answers your question, why or what dung beetles do and what they feed on. But they are very, very important. Melinda has asked an interesting question, and Melinda would like to know, do dung beetles suffer from parasites? Now Melinda, some of the larger dung beetles do have little parasites on them that will feed off, I think, some of the debris or the dung that is on them. But I don't think it's a case that they suffer from parasites, but they do carry tiny little parasites on their shells and around their body. So I have seen and I have read that they do have little tiny parasites around them, but I don't think it's a case of it affects them in any way or negatively. So Stephanie has asked, can dung beetles fly with the dung? Stephanie, I've never seen that, and I don't think they do. They can fly, yes, but they don't fly and carry the dung. What they do is they only push the dung along the ground if they are rolling it away. They never fly with it. Can hear some magpie shrikes calling in the distance. Again, I'm just thinking of that wonderful sighting Taylor had of those magpie shrikes in the nest with the chicks and the male feeding them. That's fantastic, and the female. Some starlings flying around. Going to continue driving around here. While I do that, let's get an update from Taylor and see where she is or what she's got.
We are currently driving on Mamba Road. Now, if you were watching this morning, I was itching to go and find out what happened to this carcass. Oh, sorry, I just got distracted by the first buffalo carcass that is here. I'm going to go forward to our little spot. Now, the second carcass, I wasn't very squeaky. I wasn't unfortunately able, to go in and have a look just because the ground was a bit too wet, but it is better now. And you can see it almost looks as though the vultures haven't even consumed any of it, but we know that they were on top of it this morning. But I think that there's just so much left of this carcass, they're going to be feeding on it for a few days, maybe till tomorrow. Now, that's something we're going to follow up on again in the morning, is perhaps come past here and see if the hyenas manage to pick up on it and eat it. But let's go across now. We're going to go all the way around. And I just want to double check what the quickest road is over here. We're going to go around, and I'm going to go up to Drakensberg Road, and we're going to try and get that second buffalo carcass that I wasn't able to head in and have a look at. And we'll see how much has been eaten, if any of it has been eaten at all, of course. Let's head around that way. Now, it's getting a little bit chilly, actually. It's very nice, of course, but the wind is now really gusting, which is really good news for us. And I can see some vultures in the distance up on a tree, so we'll try and have a little look at them. Maybe we can get a silhouette vulture shot this evening. Oh, I'm so sorry about the squeaky brakes, and I think we may get a silhouette vulture shot. Isn't that beautiful? Of course, the white-back vulture, which had been hanging around all day with a very full crop. And you see that big bulge coming out of its chest? It has obviously been consuming this buffalo, and looks very much like I would on Christmas Day. But lovely. Well fed. Now they're going to look for a spot to roost. That looks like a decent spot, though, to spend the night. Unless a big thunderstorm comes over, well, then I probably wouldn't want to be in that tree. But let's carry on around, of course, to that second buffalo. It's going to take us a couple of minutes to get there. But we're not too far away, probably about 3 or 4 minutes. Don't time me, though, because it may take a little bit longer. You know what I'm like, I get distracted by all sorts of things. Rebecca says that the timer has started. No pressure there. Thanks, Rebecca. Actually, I may get there in time. Not too far away, but we've got to roam around on this road. Hi, vulture. Don't want to bother you. Please stay there. It makes me happy when I'm able to just slowly drive past something like a vulture that was perched in the tree. The last thing I want to do is to make them fly unnecessary, especially if it has found its spot to settle in for the evening. Oh, we've got some Impala. Let's see if we can get a glimpse at the Impala. Now, Heidi, you've asked me if we have any Leleshwa trees. Let's see if we can have a look at these Impala. Now, I'm not 100% certain what a Leleshwa tree is, and this is always quite a difficult process, is because there are so many different types of common names for the various trees all over the world. In fact, it's a problem that we do have. So Heidi, Leleshwa, that common name doesn't ring a bell. Do you perhaps have a Latin name for me? That may help a little bit. Not that I know all the Latin names of all the trees, but I know a couple of them, and that might help. Or even if you could maybe have a look and see if there aren't any more common names, and if you can give me a few, and then we can perhaps try again and see. There are so many different tree species in this area. It could be possible that they are. And just a lovely kudu and some impala though, having a snack before the sun disappears. Now I saw quite a few of you were wondering, and this is from last night though, where do all the animals go when you do have a thunderstorm or a hailstorm? Now the thunder doesn't mind them too much. I think the elephants get a little bit nervous occasionally. And of course the lightning, because any of these animals can get struck by the lightning. But I think when you've got hail like what we had last night, that's when you're going to see animals moving out of the open and trying to seek as much shelter as they can. And it's the same thing when you have torrential rain. I'm not talking about a heavy rain or drizzle. The animals don't mind that too much. But when you've got that torrential downpour, when it hurts, when the drops hit you, well, then everybody goes into all the bushes. And I can imagine if I were a lion, or actually if I was anything, I'd probably go down into the drainage lines where you've got some steep walls, and well, probably stand up against one of the bank walls and get some shelter from the wind. And of course we know when there's wind, the hail will come in at an angle, and so will the rain, and then you should be able to avoid yourself from getting injured from those hailstones. And it'll be nice to keep out of the wind and not be so chilly. Now you can see the skies are still clear on the other side, just a few low forming clouds. It seems as though everything is coming in from the west this evening. You can see it building up, although I've parked now right next to the trees, but you can sort of see it coming in very slowly. There it is on the left, and it's getting there, slowly but surely. And that's typically what happens, is that these dark clouds sort of engross the entire sky. And then normally the wind picks up, and then we get the big development of the cumulonimbus clouds, all those wonderful things. But it seems as though Byron has gone back to the Nkuhumas.
I have indeed. We just wanted to come back to see if they had moved a little bit. This is the male and female that we saw earlier, and as you can see, he's still resting very peacefully. The rest of the pride seem to have just moved further into the drainage line, and we actually can't see them very well. So we can't get down there. It's very, very thick. You can see all those trees behind those lions. It's impossible to get a vehicle through there. But at least you've got this beautiful pair still out in the open. And I'm hoping, I'm going to sit with them for a while, because I'm hoping that with it cooling down, we might get some activity. Maybe they move around. I know there has been a pair, and it's most likely this pair, that have been mating. So you never know. I'm going to sit and watch. But their bellies, I think, are so full from all the buffalo that they've been eating the last few days. I think that's why these lions aren't too phased about moving around too much. You never know. Maybe we're lucky and we get them calling later, just before you leave. Maybe. That would be wonderful. That would be first prize. See that big belly of that male breathing very heavily. Seems like they don't have a worry in the world, completely relaxed. A lot of birds, mainly starlings around us, giving their last calls for the evening. Or for the day rather, before the evening. Going to get the spotlight out soon. And we are going to continue our search for chameleons. Maybe we start getting lucky in the next few days because of all the rain we've had. We've seen some of the other animals that are active because of the rainfall. You know, we spoke about them earlier, and other reptiles like the tortoises, leopard tortoise, and that speaks hinged back tortoise. So who knows? Maybe we're lucky and we see a chameleon or two hanging on the branches. Maybe some scorpions. That would be great. But as we move further into summer, I'm sure we're going to have a better chance of seeing those types of little animals, those little creatures. Is he moving? No. Breathing quite heavily. And one of the reasons, well, two reasons why they do that. One is because they're possibly quite hot, so the lions do pant. And also when they are very full, if their bellies are full, lions do tend to breathe very, very heavily. We're so fortunate to be able to get this close to them and spend time just sitting, appreciating these magnificent beasts. And again, they look so peaceful, so relaxed. And we saw yesterday morning how quickly they can turn from these relaxed animals to poised hunters, and incredible hunters at that. Yesterday we spoke about it, and a lot of you saw, they took down 2 or 3 buffalo. So they've been very successful the last while, and they've been around this area for quite some time. It's been great because I think these lions have had these young cubs, so they haven't wanted to move very far. But the other reason is they haven't had to, because there's food and because there's water around. So they are very, very happy. It's been great for us. 40 days of lions every day. That's incredible. It really is amazing. 48 days, yeah. So Melinda has asked an interesting question about the ticks, and we've seen some ticks on the lions, and Melinda says she's seen ticks on a lot of animals, including the lions. And where do the ticks live? How do they come across these ticks? And also, do the animals suffer from any tick-borne diseases, tick-carried diseases? So I don't think they suffer from anything that the ticks give them. I think the ticks mainly suck the blood and fall off eventually when they are full. I have not heard or read anywhere that animals suffer from a tick bite disease. And Melinda, they occur in the grass, and we pick them up too when we're walking and tracking animals. We often get ticks all over us. We've got to be very, very careful. We often have to check our legs and our pants for ticks. And I have had tick bite fever, which is similar to Lyme disease, which you get in the States, but it's not as bad. And I have had that before. Generally what happens is you get a very, very bad headache, a fever, and you're usually down for about a week of aching joints and very, very painful. And it doesn't necessarily cause death, but you would have to take medication for it, and it's not very pleasant. But I've never seen a lion or anything like that with tick bite fever. Look at this male rolling over. Head right back. I think you can hear the wind is picking up a little bit. I wonder if we're going to have another storm this evening. See some clouds building in the distance where we had that sunset earlier, but not quite as threatening as it was last night. But you never know. We're going to sit with these lions a little bit longer. I think while we do that, Taylor has found a dead buffalo, perhaps one of these that they fed on yesterday. Let's have a look.
Now, this is the buffalo that we saw a few mornings ago that had sustained a horn injury from, I presume, another male buffalo. Perhaps they were having a bit of a argument, and it ended unfortunate for this male, where he ended up bleeding out, which was quite terrible. Now, it's only since yesterday morning that we didn't come and check it. Well, we haven't checked him since, and he's bloated up, and of course the flies have laid their eggs, and the larvae has indeed hatched. Now, this is quite gross and gruesome, so if you are a little bit sensitive, you're welcome to turn away for a few minutes. But this morning we had a question asking about how important flies are, and we can clearly see, because nothing else has touched this buffalo carcass, it is just the maggots and the flies that are here, and they will eventually eat a lot of this buffalo, and then it will start to decompose, which is good. We even saw a few ticks that are still hanging around on the buffalo, which is quite surprising. I would have thought by now, there it is, look at that big tick. I wouldn't have thought that there would be much blood flowing in this buffalo after a few days. Look at it, it is so fat and so full that it can barely move. If you turn your volume up, you might actually even be able to hear the flies buzzing. Did you see that? The fly on the tick? That was funny. That would have been a very slow form of transport if that fly stayed on that tick. Now, it's a massive buffalo. There is so much food here. I can't believe that the vultures haven't seen it yet. I thought it was tucked under a tree a little bit more, but it seems to actually be out in the open quite a bit. And it'll be interesting to see tomorrow morning if the hyenas have come across the half-eaten carcass that we just saw, or if they are going to find this one and start devouring it. Now, I wouldn't want to be around when whoever decides to come and feast on this buffalo opens up the stomach. I can't imagine that would be a very nice smell. It's bloated up quite a bit now, and I think if you severed it in the wrong place, it would pop like a balloon, and it would be very, very smelly. You can see this is where the injury came from. It seemed to have been a horn to the scrotum, to those sensitive bits there, and unfortunately there are a lot of blood vessels there around that area, and this poor buffalo bull bled out. But this is the circle of life, of course, and it's an important one, and it's something that we all just have to understand, that this is indeed nature. You see, even the eyes are still intact. Look at the beautiful flies. And David, you're wondering, why do ticks need to drink so much blood? And it's purely just because of food, very much the same way that a lion's body is designed to sort of, when they gorge themselves, they blow up like a balloon. Well, the same thing happens with a tick, is that it feeds and feeds as much as it can, and its body stretches out to its absolute maximum. And it might not find another host for a few days, so it's going to have some sort of resources, fat reserves, I suppose, or blood reserves, in order for it to carry on living in case it doesn't find another host. You can imagine at this speed it would be quite difficult and also of its size, for it to latch onto another host, so it is probably going to have to wait until it gets a bit smaller. There isn't any long blades of grass around at the moment, which we normally see the ticks sitting on, waiting for an unsuspecting victim to pass by through the long grass, and then it's quite easy for them to get caught on the coat of an animal and take it from there. But like I said, with there not being much grass around, it just makes it that much more difficult for even the ticks are going to be struggling during this period, but not for long. 20 mils of rain and we should have a good amount of grass in the next couple of days. But we're so sorry, buffalo, but you have sacrificed yourself to nature, and you're going to supply somebody else with a meal. Now, Valerie, just having a look at their face, Valerie wants to know, why are the animals' eyes always open when they die? They never seem to be closed. I think it's just in their last dying breaths, that's sort of something that they don't think to do, is close their eyes. It's the same thing, unfortunately, with people and anything really, is that it isn't a natural thing just to close your eyes. It's sort of an involuntary movement, I think, when you pass on. And I believe that back in many years ago, they actually used to put coins on people's eyes who had passed away out of respect, to try and keep the eyelids closed, because it's not uncommon that muscles will start to tense up in the rigor mortis period, and then of course causing muscle twitching, or in fact like this, something like this, the eyelids to actually open up again, which could be quite disturbing and quite distraught. But it's getting a little bit dark now. Brian and I are going to have to try and meander out of this thicket, and you can see that the ground has dried quite nicely. I was quite happy to come and off-road here. But let's leave this buffalo, rest in peace, and go and see how the Nkuhumas are doing.
This male's just lifted his head, and the flies seem to be bothering him. Here's the male with that very bad scar on the side of the face. You'll see it shortly. Look at that. Possibly, we're not exactly sure what happened there, if it was a fight with another male, or possibly a horn from all these buffalo that they've been hunting. You can see the scars on his face. I bet you this male has got many stories to tell. Oh, that doesn't look very nice at all, that wound. But I must admit, these big cats have an amazing ability to heal very, very quickly. And I've seen lions, I've seen leopards with serious injuries, where some of their legs have been cut open from stumps that they've run into while hunting, and bad wounds that we thought, oh, it's impossible that this animal would live. And they heal, they come out of it. It's incredible. They tend to heal very, very quickly, as long as they can try and keep it clean. Occasionally they'll clean each other's wounds, and that will help. So Nathaniel has asked, have I ever seen a buffalo attack or kill or injure a lion? And Nathaniel, I've seen buffalo when lions have been hunting them, and the buffalo eventually decide that they had enough and they turn around and work together as a unit and chase the lions away. And I have seen lions get horned by buffalo. They weren't badly injured, they managed to get away, and I've seen them run up into a tree. We had about 3 or 4 lions in a tree with the buffalo underneath them, very, very scared. So because the buffalo are so powerful, they're able to do that, and they can be very aggressive if they feel threatened, as we spoke about earlier. So I have seen it, Nathaniel. They're incredibly powerful animals, and if they get pushed, they will turn and defend themselves. Just getting back, we had a question earlier from Jessica. Jessica asked, will lions feed every day? So no, Jessica, they won't necessarily feed every day. These lions have just been very fortunate that they have had food every day because of the buffalo around. Generally speaking, it all depends on the size of the prey that the lions actually hunt and kill. So what happens is, for example, if a lion or pride of lions hunt something like an impala, they'll finish that most likely within 20 to 30 minutes, depending on the size of the pride. They'll finish that very, very quickly. They'll then move on, and they'll probably have to hunt quite soon after that, maybe the same day, maybe the next day. Something as large as a buffalo, if a pride of lions feed on that, and that could be for a day or 2 days for a larger buffalo, then they'll probably go 2 or 3 days without having to eat again. But again, all these animals, and especially the lions, are very opportunistic. So if there is food around, they will try and hunt. So it doesn't matter if they're hungry or not. If the opportunity is there, they will still go and hunt. So thanks for that question, Jessica. But they definitely don't have to feed every day. At least the temperature has dropped a little bit. It's become much cooler, which is great, because it is quite tough to sleep out in the bush when it's very, very hot. These lions don't seem to have a problem with it though. They're resting very comfortably, but there is this cool breeze at the moment, so I think they're very, very happy. Sounds like a lot of the birds have gone quiet, not as many bird calls around at the moment. The odd one here or there in the distance, but much quieter than 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago. So Jay has asked us a question regarding injured or sick lions, and Jay would like to know, are these injured or sick lions a risk to tourists on safari? Well, Jay, the whole time when we're out on safari, we've got to be very careful. These are wild animals, and they can be somewhat unpredictable. So we do have to be very careful and very respectful of the animals. When animals are injured, they tend to be a little bit more unpredictable, and the reason for that is because they're injured, they're possibly not getting as much food as they usually would, and then they're not feeling very good, very happy, very active because they're not able to hunt. So all of those feelings then cause them to feel more threatened because they are injured. So that could cause them to attack, or rather defend themselves, not necessarily attack, but defend themselves if we get too close when they are injured. Usually what we do, I mean, on the vehicles, generally we are safe, and it's because the animals do view the vehicles as something which passes by, and they have become somewhat habituated to the vehicles. They know there's no threat or danger from it, but we are still careful, and we are still very very sensitive towards these animals. We don't want to get too close, we don't want to push them and cause them to react. But if we were walking, it's a different story. When you're on foot, you appear to be almost like a different predator towards these other animals. So they will then basically act in one of two ways. They will either run away from you and move away from the potential threat, or they will get a fright, and because they become startled, they'll probably try and defend themselves, and that would cause them to then potentially react aggressively and maybe attack you. If you track or are following an injured animal, the chances of a situation like that happening are a lot higher. So you do have to be careful, but it's not to say they will attack people purely because they are injured. So I hope that kind of makes sense. So thanks very much for that question. I'm going to sit here for 1 or 2 more minutes. We're starting to lose light now. And let's get an update from Taylor quickly.
We are also searching for chameleons this evening. Well, we've actually been searching for them for the last few weeks, but they haven't come out yet. But perhaps tonight is the night, and we'll finally be able to see those elusive chameleons. I really need to slow down now, of course. Oh, of course. Have a look at this bum. I'm going to go back here. I'm not going to put a light. I'm going to put my... Let's do this light. Let me see if I can angle it up. I'm going to go back, but you'll see why. There we go. You can actually see it. Look at this bum that we're looking at. No, it looks like it's probably a crested frank. No, maybe a Natal Spur Fowl. Yes, sorry. It looks like a Natal Spur Fowl. Is sitting, resting, and getting ready to sleep. Now, the reason why I think it's hysterical is because of the angle that this bird is sitting in. It's got its bum poking straight towards the air. It's almost inverted. It's very funny and quite a surprise to come across. There you go. It looks like a Natal Spur Fowl. Are you having a sleep? Are you getting ready for bed? I think that that's going to be a very windy spot, and you're sitting on the edge of a branch. So I hope you're ready for a wild ride on the roller coaster tree this evening, Mr. Natal Spur Fowl. But good luck. We will carry on. We won't bother you too much more. I thought that was very funny, coming across something like that. And that's what it's all about, is that you just never know what you're going to come across around the next corner or in the next tree. Even though it wasn't a leopard, it was quite funny, and it definitely brought laughter to my day, finding something like that. But we'll carry on searching for these chameleons. Now, they like to sit on the edge of the trees, so that's particularly where we're looking, and the branches that overhang on the road. But when we do get some more rain and the grass starts to grow a little bit taller than just a couple of centimeters, then we're going to actually start seeing lots of the little chameleons, the baby chameleons, down on the bits of grass. So that'll be another spot to look for them. Oh, but I've got a spider. Can you get that, Brian, or do you need to change position? Look at this spider that we've got building its web. Hello, bark spider. Looks like a bark spider. Now, typically bark spiders only make their webs at night. I'm just trying to follow it and look at it the same. Oh, you're going too quickly. And it's busy putting its web up, and then in the morning they take it away. It looks like it could actually be a female. She seems to be much larger. And very quickly working, you can see, taking a strand from her spinneret, and she's attaching it to the next one. Isn't this incredible, how she's able to work so fast? Can you see her attaching the webs? Look at that, adding new trap lines. Look at this. and she's got an order. Sorry, I'm trying to stay on the spider, but it's quite difficult because she's quite small. Now, typically the female spiders are much larger than the males, and this is a good spot, angled on some trees, and I think with all the ant alates that are out at the moment, we're definitely going to see some action, little spider. You've got a good spot. Go to work. Oh wow. Not even bothered by us. You've got a long way to go. It seems as though she's probably just started. She's working her way from the outside towards the inside of the middle of the web. That is incredible, and she's not going to stop until she's finished. I would be exhausted by now. Off you go. Keep going. Rebecca, you are very funny this afternoon. Rebecca says that it's like she is doing laps around quarantine, which is the big open area, and that's what all of us ladies have been doing lately, is running around and around in circles, very much like the spider is doing at the moment. Though I think the spider looks a little bit more graceful compared to the way we do things. What do you think, Rebecca? Struggling a little bit in the wind. You can see how it's picking up now. And it's incredible also how she's able to produce so much silk. Sorry, it's a little bit bright there. Let me try and shine the light a little bit off her. You can see how big the web is. Right, but we're going to leave the spider in peace to do her thing. But I hope you enjoyed the show this afternoon. It's been an absolute pleasure once again. And thank you for all the lovely chats. And I look forward to tomorrow's sunrise safari. So from myself, Brian, and in case you forgot who the thumb was today, Fiona, I know you were wondering. We're going to have a quick look at the thumb. There's the thumb, raincoat thumb. And we all wish you a good farewell. And we'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning.
Thank you very much, Taylor and Brian. It was a lovely afternoon. I'm glad Taylor got to show you that bark spider. One of my favorite little spiders. These lions, however, have not moved an inch. They're still very, very comfortable, very, very relaxed. I'm assuming they'll probably only get moving much later. We'll see what they get up to during the evening. Possibly find them tomorrow morning. Maybe they've killed something else if they do decide to go hunting. And it's not like there is a shortage of food. There's a lot going on. But it's been a wonderful, wonderful day. A lot of activity. Lions, elephant, buffalo, and some interesting little things. We had some great birds this morning and this afternoon. So I hope you have all enjoyed it with us. So don't forget to join us tomorrow again for our sunrise drive. It'll be great to have all of you viewers with us. Thank you for all the questions. It's been great. I really hope you've enjoyed today with us. We look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow. Thank you to Zonda on camera with me this afternoon, and thank you to the voices in my head, or rather the ladies in FC, Kirsten and Rebecca. People often laugh at me when I say the voices in my head. And don't forget, tomorrow morning again we'll be live here at Djuma. So thank you very much for all the questions and comments. We will see you all tomorrow morning. Have a great evening wherever you are around the world. Good night and goodbye, everyone. Thank you.